All right, I see someone joined the stream. I'm trying to copy this new link to see if you can hear. Now I hear something. Oh, thank God. Oh my goodness, that was terrible. I had 10 people on the stream and nobody could hear me. And I hate it when that happens. I'm just sending out a new link now, and I'm gonna have to dump it out there as quickly as I can. So bear with me. No, there's Dean. Sorry, family there. No problem. Andy's back. All right. Mike's there. All right. Good. We're starting to get everybody back now. That's nice. It was getting a little bit crazy in here with me having to fight with my sound, and I could not figure it out. That was insane, guys. I don't know what happened or why, but let me just pop one more um, thing out here on Facebook just in case people missed that. So, oh gosh, that calls for a drink right now. I'm thinking. Mm. First, I canceled one on you, what, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I guess. And then I start a stream and I've got no sound for you. So, we're on a winning streak here now. Oh, good Lord. I'll tell you, being on this end of that microphone and that camera when the microphone's not working, that's not good. That's not a good feeling. I was thinking to myself, okay, I need to have it up on my phone so I can hear the feedback or something. That's not happened before. One time, well, it did happen once before, and I had to hook up my mic that I use for my voiceovers, and that worked. But this time it didn't work. So I think it was actually YouTube. We got it fixed. So awesome. And let's see. So Southern Adirondack Outdoors, nice to see you. It's going to be fun joining you on April 1st, as well as Two Brothers Outdoors. So those that don't know, Rick over at Two Brothers Outdoors is doing a live, and he's trying to get different mill owners who run YouTube channels to join him to just answer questions. And so he's going to have Southern Adirondack Outdoors. Your name is so big. I'm going to say SAO uh, on with their LT15. And I'm going to join in with my LT40. And then they've got two Hudson mills. So they're going to be on there. And then they're actually looking to see if there's anybody else who runs a YouTube channel that's got a different kind of mill. So Baker or something else. I don't know. But all right. Oh, here we go. It's let's see. I haven't Desert Hobo hasn't made it back yet, but he was putting kids to bed, so I think he'll be back soon. Mm. All right, Dean, what you got? I was quarter sawing some white oak yesterday. The far end of the board would slide left when the blade would exit. Am I doing anything wrong, or does that just happen? That happens. That's actually not uncommon. Now there are a couple times when you cut a board, they can move left or right on you. One can be stress related, but normally it's not. You'll get a feel for it when you're coming down the end of the board. You've already cut everything off. You're kind of cutting right out the end of it, and it'll follow the band a little bit. That actually, in my mind anyway, means a lot of the sawdust has exited with the cut, so you're not using too much lube. Because too much lube, the sawdust almost acts like a bit of glue, and it doesn't move as well. But that last little bit gets cut off and it wants to follow the band a little bit. So sometimes that happens, especially on the 1 inch type stuff, seven eighths, three quarters, that kind of stuff tends to do that from time to time. Not an issue at all. On the other hand, if I'm cutting down a cant and I notice early on, maybe I'm less than halfway down the cant and I can already see that that board is kicking out on me. It's kicking out to the left or it's moving to the right. That's stress. And so you've got to pay attention to that right away. You definitely don't want that on one buys. So you've got to ask yourself, can you flip the cant 90 degrees and cut them that way instead? That would give you a face bend, because what's happening is if that piece of wood is starting to kick on you before you ever get to the other end of the cant, that's stress trying to move, and it's going to crown, and you don't want crowns on, say, flooring, paneling, siding, Let's see, studs. You don't want crowns on studs. Face bends are better for that. A lot of guys that mill for construction lumber, they try to put everything into face bends. But you could do crowns on rafters and joists. So if it's kicking on a rafter or a joist, no big deal. 2x12s, yeah, it happens. Crown up and away you go. But that's something to pay attention to. But if it's just coming off with the band at the end of the cut, that's fine. That's no problem at all. And by the way, we got Mike on here. Mike, right? Wilson Forest Lands. I'm really bad with names, buddy, but I'm trying to remember them. And Southern Adirondack Outdoors. You guys, you can answer the questions too a little bit if you want. These guys also mill quite a bit. So and let's see, what Dean's there. Let's see. I didn't see Kilton Sawyer today. He usually joins us. But what other questions you got? Fire away, folks. I will tell you that I'm sure you're probably curious, so I'll throw this out there for you. 2 weeks ago, I had a live scheduled. Awesome, Dean. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, buddy. Those super thanks, super chats, and stickers, they really help the channel out. It bumps me up from making $2 or $3 a day to making 5 or 6. So I appreciate it. It really helps, motivates me. But anyway, so 2 weeks ago, I had a live scheduled, and then all of a sudden I canceled it, and I apologize for that. I had a little bit of a thing, a bit of a heart thing that was a bit worrisome at the time because I didn't know what the heck was going on. And it looks like it's a benign thing, no big deal, something that can happen. Kind of like a not a murmur, but something like that. They call it a preventricle compression, I think, PVCs. Not a major issue, nothing to worry about, but it was kind of weird at the time, so it had me kind of thinking, oh shit, what's going on here? I better watch out. I better beep that cuss word out, right? YouTube doesn't like that. So yes, you got the name, Mike. Oh, good. Okay, I try. But so anyway, that's what happened. And then the following weekend, we went up to the cabin. We go up at least once a month to try and check on the place. So for those interested in the cabin build stuff, I've got some new stuff coming up there. Really excited about one. I have finally made the move to LifePo batteries. So not really LiPo, but LiFePos. The new lithium batteries, LifePo 4s. I'm actually going to be able to use them and get way more power up at the cabin and stop worrying about my lead acid batteries. Big time awesomeness. And if you're not familiar or you haven't seen those videos, that's why I run a sawmill. But so that's coming. And by the way, I am working on a video for you guys that I promised you I would do. I said if folks asked in one of my recent videos about how I paid for my sawmill in 13 months, I have filmed that video, and I'm just editing it right now, and I hope to have that out for you this week. So I honestly, I think it's a fun video because it talks a little bit about what got me into this a bit and that kind of stuff too. But I think it might help, although I think most of it you're probably already going to do, thinking about doing, excuse me, that kind of stuff. So I think you might enjoy that. So, hey, South Georgia, Joe Maine, thanks for joining. Dusty Ranch, Ben, nice to see you, buddy. For those that don't know, Dusty Ranch, Ben out in North Carolina, I think, Ben. He's the one that did the drag race stuff, and he challenged myself and a couple others with the LT40s, not the supers, just to see the difference in speed. So if you watched my hydraulic repair video, the first one I did, it was Ben's super that we were running against. So, no, no, they did not say none of this. So, oh, wait, this way. There you go. No. Bourbon's actually good for you in moderation, one or two. But yeah, so anyway, if you guys watched that, if you haven't seen that, I would encourage you to go back and watch the first video I did on hydraulic repair, because it's actually mind-blowing how much faster the super is from the regular LT40. I was blown away. His mill, he could run the log clamp back in, like in, out, back, up, and down 3 ways till Sunday before I could get mine all the way out. It was insane. So that was pretty awesome. Yeah, I was shocked too, buddy. So crazy, crazy stuff, really was. And but anyway, so I have that video coming out. So we've got the how I paid for my meal in 13 months. That video is coming out. Shot it. I'm editing it. I've actually finished my first edit. So if you do YouTube yourself, you know this already. So Southern Adirondack, Wilson Forest Lands, Dusty Ranch. You guys all know this. When you make videos, you film them and then you got to edit them and then you got to edit them and then you edit them again and then you do some more editing. So I've done the first complete edit and some more tweaks to it. I'm going to be honest with you guys. This one's going to be probably one of my longer videos. I normally try to keep them at 16 minutes or less. This one's going to be about double that. I'm still trying to cut it down a little bit for you to compress it. But I think there's a lot of information that I'm going to share that might help you guys who want to go out there and pay for your meals that haven't done that yet. So I think guys like Ben over at Dusty Ranch, he knows. Wilson Forest Lands, Southern Adirondack, you guys all know already probably. But for those that don't, they're fairly new to running a sawmill and trying to pay for that mill by running the mill, I'm going to help you out, I hope, in that video. So that one's coming out. What else have I got? Oh, so I put some pictures out recently of a gentleman whose name's Joe. And Joe was a carver that actually, he's a friend of the family. He's a member of the Sons of Norway. And I'd gone with my wife to Trollhagen out here in Washington, oh gosh, almost 20 years ago. And we had a great time. It was a lot of fun. And Joe was trying to teach me how to carve. And I never really got it. I didn't have the patience for it. But Joe is an amazing carpenter. He built Viking boats and all kinds of things. And it turns out he's got some logs that came down in a big windstorm. So I'm going to be going and milling those up for Joe. And I think that's going to be fun. So I'm going to bring that to you. And I'll be sure to film some of the stuff he's built, like one of his Viking longboats. It's really amazing. So you'll get to see that. I've also got a big maple that I quartered up last year. I had a short out on it. I'm going to be putting out a video on that pretty soon. And I'm going to go do that because, newsflash, the mill is almost completely fixed. So not completely because I still got this. And if you have an LT40, you might know what this is. But that is the valve. That's an inline valve that goes to the rear hydraulic piston that operates the side supports and the log turner. It's cracked. So I had at least 3 problems on the mill. Insane to have 2 is bad enough. To have 3 all at the same time, possibly a fourth. The fourth being a plugged cap. So that's a hydraulics cap right there. So hydraulics cap, maybe cracked valve back by the rear piston. I had a bad contact. Positive contact was worn out, not always making contact. And I had one other issue that has been fixed. The mill hydraulics are working great. So it's going to be back in action here, and I'm going to be getting back to milling really soon. So that's all really exciting, and I'll be bringing that to you as well. So that'll be interesting. L. Cates, wait, okay, let me see. I got a question here before I answer you there, L. Cates, and I'm bad with names, by the way. So if there's a first name out there that'll be easier, always let me know. It helps out. Let's see. Filming is the easiest part. Yeah. So Ben over at Dusty Ranch has a great channel, guys. And if you haven't checked him out, check him out. Really nice guy. Filming is definitely the toughest. That's the best when you get to see your lumber makers. That's the best when you get, oh yeah. When you get to see people that use the wood that you work with. I mean, guys like that are amazing. So, all right, okay, so what do we got here? I'm struggling to decide if I want to change my standard outriggers to the fine adjust, but I'm mostly portable, so I feel like they'd be nice to have. Do you have them on yours? No, yes and no. I have one. The front one on the tongue is an FAO. It's ticked me off more than once. I often contemplate putting an FAO on the very rear. They're expensive, though. I think when I bought mine, which was about 4 or 5 years ago, not the mill, but the FAO, I think that one, FAO, for those that don't know that term, on the wood misers, that's a fine adjust outrigger. So basically the legs, like the jacks, right? So the standard LT40s, or I think the LT35s and others like that, come with a pin style. You drop it down and then you put a pin in at different heights, and you have to shim up the feet. So I will tell you, I put the FAO on the front, and eventually, after a few years, maybe 4 years or so, the pin in the nut I think broke. And one day I was cranking up the mill, and I cranked it up past that, and I didn't know it. And I lifted up the mill, and I went to move it over onto the hitch. And when I went to set it down, because it wasn't quite right yet, there was no bottom half to the jack, and it went all the way down to the ground. Not a good thing, trust me. So I had to get some help to lift it back up and put the leg back under it again, and had to remind myself never to do that again. That really upset me. That kind of stuff shouldn't happen. So, are the FAOs good or not? Some guys love them. I personally think for the price, I can live without them. So, in my mind, they're great. They can make life easier. If someone was going to give me them so I could put them on my mill, sure, I'll take them. But am I going to go spend $1,000, $1,500 upgrading my mill for those? I've been running mobile for a long time. Nope, I wouldn't do it. I put one on the front, maybe one on the back, but if the mill will pay for them, sure, maybe. But I haven't. I carry a box of shims around, and guess what? They work fine. So nice to have. If you can afford it, sure, why not? But it's not required. You don't need it. And I'm 100% mobile. Let's see. Dusty Ranch. I have front and rears. Just ordered the other four. Must be nice, buddy. Not me. Yeah, love and hate. They're a love hate thing. Scroll up for my missed question. I'm sorry, Dean. I didn't know you had one there. Let me go back and look. Let's see. I like my new 1.5-inch blades. You said that one should also put in a 1.5-inch guide. Any reason why? Oh, so you don't have to. So for the 1.5s on an LT40 or above, you do not need to upgrade the guide rollers. If you're running, inch and a five inch, what inch? Get my head straight, guys. So if you were running inch and a quarters and you move to inch and a fives and you've got both, you can run them just fine. I run the guide wheels for inch and a quarter still, because I still have inch and a quarter bands. You cannot run inch and a quarters on the inch and a half guide wheels. So if you're looking to move to inch and a halves like I am, I will move all my bands to inch and a halves. I'm not going to run inch and a quarters as soon as I wear them out, they're gone. And Woodmiser knows, don't send me any inch and a quarters, because I have on the Resharp program, if a band goes in and it's bad, it's got cracks, they just automatically replace it for me. And by the way, I get my bands now from Joe Main, who is with us today. But and I've told Joe, inch and a half's only. It's all I want. I don't want inch and a quarters anymore. But I still have inch and a quarters now, and because of that, I'll hang on to those guide wheels. But once I've got rid of my inch and a quarters, I am going to change the guide wheels out. And the reason is, from talking to guys that run them all the time, they say you actually do get more benefit out of the inch and a half bands when you run the inch and a half guide wheels. They run flatter, faster, better, don't wave as much. It's another improvement. So inch and a quarters, they're okay. Inch and a halves, much better. Inch and a halves on inch and a half guide wheels, even better than that. That's how I look at it. So, and that's what I will be doing. Hopefully that was the question that you asked. And if not, poke me. I'll answer another one if you got it. Oh, quarter sawing white oak yesterday far. Okay, I answered that one. Okay, good. Let's see what else we got here. Love and hate them. 1900 for the set. Yeah, and they don't get the reach. Oh, so that, yeah, I will tell you, actually, Ben, my front FAO on my mill, I do find that it doesn't seem to have, it's not quite as long. So I was thinking of making sawdust that used the trailer tongue jacks instead of, yeah. So SAO, so I'm going to call you now, buddy. I got to get your names right. One, I think, is Andy, but I'm terrible with names. But I will tell you, when I built the LT10, I used trailer jacks, and trailer jacks actually worked really well. So I do know, because the guy that helped me build that LT10 trailer, he did all the metal work. We designed it together. He actually told me that the outriggers on the LT40 are just trailer jacks. That's all they are. And that's not an uncommon pattern that they bolt on even. So theoretically, you could go anywhere that sells trailer jacks, and guess what? Probably find some trailer jacks. So that might work. Dean, awesome, buddy. Hey, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It does help the channel out. So if you got another question, shoot them out there, because I'll just keep answering. Steve at MSD making sawdust. Oh, Steve. Oh, that's what you said. I think it was making sawdust. Okay, I got you. I see it now. That used the trailer chunks out. Yeah, he probably did. Absolutely. And Steve's pretty smart. He's done a lot of stuff. So if you don't know Steve over at MSD making sawdust, really nice guy, Steve and Bonnie. Bonnie does all the woodworking, and she does help run the mill too. And then he runs the mill. They're great. They're great folks. So he did a drip system. He did an ATF drip system for the rail on his LT40. Really neat, actually. And the idea was to keep it lubed better than standard. Although I will tell you, that's awesome. I think in a stationary environment, it might work. A paintbrush and a plastic pail has served me for 7 years. The same brush and the same pail. I probably didn't spend more than $5 for the two of them. And I just dump ATF in it and then use the paintbrush to brush her down the rail. I do it in the morning. I do it in the evening. I do it once or twice throughout the day. And it works great. Now, if you don't know this and you got an LT40 anyway, or any twin rail wood miser mill, so 50s and 70s should be the same. I haven't looked. It should be. They've got a black cap that goes between the rails and rides on top of that, the round rail that the mill head rides on. There's two wing nuts on that. Take those wing nuts off, pull that cap out, and turn it upside down. It's got felt. Pour ATF, saturate that with felt before you start milling for the day, and then flip it back on the rail and tighten it back down. That actually helps a lot too. So you still brush the rails, but by doing that, you're making sure that there's some extra lube on the rail as well. So if you didn't know that, there you go. Another one for you. What else you got for me? Let's see. While I'm waiting. So we talked about a couple weeks ago some videos. I got some more stuff coming up too. And if you're watching this, I have to guess that sawmill owners probably do a lot of things for themselves. And by the way, that's a little bit of my theme on paying the mill off. But we started a new thing that is, I think, going to help me out a lot for sawmilling. Believe it or not, we got one of those Harvest Right freeze dryers. So if you haven't seen those, they're pretty cool. We've been just going crazy with that thing. And the reason why I think it's going to help me out is it's going to be nice to put meals and just throw them in the camper so I can just forget about them. Because sometimes when I'm out on the road, and I can be out for 5, 6, 7 days, 8, 9, 10 days in a row sometimes, you know what? Having that little bit of extra is going to be great. And I think that's going to be fun. So we're going to play with that. But all right, let's see. Dean, again, let's see. I am doing well with second cut, keeping it square, but the third cut is giving me trouble, mostly with smaller logs. Any advice? Yeah. So, hey, Skookum, nice to see you, buddy. So, Dean, there's a couple trains of thought on, and I assume by the third cut, you mean the third face. So if you don't mean the third face, let me know. But I'm guessing you mean you cut the first face, you cut the second face, that's 90 degrees. You cut the third face and you're not getting 90 there. I will tell you that 9 times out of 10, it's usually one of two issues. Either over clamping, so you're running the clamp in too tight against the cant itself or the log, or because you're on that third face, the fourth face is round and it's against the log clamp, your clamp's either too high or too low. And what can happen is if the clamp is a little too low and you run the clamp in, it can tend to lift the log a little bit. And what you have to do is you've got to watch two things. One, you want to make sure that that next open face that you've already cut, right, is flat against those side supports. Now, of course, that is assuming that your mill is well aligned. Those should be either exactly 90 degrees or 1/32 of an inch in from 90 degrees. So, and the reason for that is the log clamp is going to push them back that 32nd of an inch potentially. So, but what you do is you get that first face cut, then you roll it 90 degrees. And of course, you may take a flitch to get that nice opening face of at least 4 to 6 inches. You roll that 90 degrees, and you make sure that that is flat against those side supports, absolutely flat. And a lot of times what I will do is I'll roll it flat into the side supports, and then I'll bring my clamp in, but I won't fully tighten the clamp down because the side supports may be up too high, and I would cut them if I'm going to keep going. So without fully not clamping them too hard, I'll then roll the side support down, and I can watch them when they roll down and see that they're staying flat. and then I bring in that log clamp. Now, so you're talking the third face, right? So you cut your first face, you cut your second face. So you cut it, you roll it, you cut this one, you roll it. You should be flat on the deck. Now, this is the key. If you're over clamping or your clamp is above or below the crown of the log, it will push it up. And I had that same problem when I first started out with the LT40. It was so different from the manual mill that I would push that cant up too hard, and it would, even though you've got the side supports there, they're usually down a little bit at this point, unless you're under a big log, and you actually twist it a little bit. You kick it up. And then when you cut that third face, it's not square. So what you have to do if you do that is you got to bring your head down onto the cant, onto that flat surface that you just cut. You set her down there. You know, you're going to have to unclamp it and wiggle it a little bit, and you put your carpenter square on there. And what you do, and you might have seen me do this in one of my videos, occasionally you'll see me do it. I'll set the carpenter square on it so that I've got a nice flat face here, and I run it across the top, and I look to see what angle it's telling me. Do I need to kick the back up and twist it this way, or do I need to twist it the other way? And usually it's that way because the log clamp pushed it up on the log clamp side and tilted it like this. So when I made that cut, it wasn't 90 degrees. So you just got to kind of rotate it, and you can get it that way with the band just above the cant itself so that you can see it. Then once you get it cut so that your carpenter square and the angle you see needs to be cut matches what your band is showing you on top of the cant, you're good to go. Pull it back, drop her down so that you're maybe 1/8 of an inch under the thin side of that wedge that you're going to cut. Boom, and away you go. You cut it square. So that's how I do that. It's something that's a little tricky in the beginning with these because that log clamp will just jam those right into that side support, and it will lift that cant right off the deck if you're not careful. So that would be my guess. Let's see, what else you got? Did that answer that question? Hopefully for you. Small logs, especially small logs, by the way, because they're so light, it's easy for that log clamp, once it pushes into them, to lift them up off the deck. There is one other thing that can cause this, and you see me from time to time. If you watch my videos, you'll see me do this. I'll lift a log up on the deck on the toe board rollers, and then I'll go clean my bunks off. You got to make sure you keep those bunks clean, because if you don't, that sawdust or bark or something can get up underneath there, and it can kick that thing out of square. Now you got a problem. So, I would say just look to those things. Log clamp number one, though, 9 times out of 10. Dusty, he's got a hydraulic mill now, so I bet he's probably seen this too. I don't see Kilted Sawyer, or he could answer it too. But and Skookum, I'm not sure what kind of sawmill you have. I cannot remember. I apologize. Bad memory. But anybody with that hydraulic log clamp knows after a while, you run that sucker in there and it just kicks them up like that. So you got to be careful. And you don't have to clamp them that hard. But if you've watched my videos, you know sometimes if you don't clamp them hard enough, they move on you. And I've had that happen too. So LT35 HD, yes. So I bet you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Small logs, you run that log clamp in after you've cut 2 faces, and it wants to lift a little bit, push them up against the side supports wrong. So, all right, what else you got for me, guys? Anybody? Let's see. Most of you guys are running. Well, a lot of you guys are running YouTube channels. If anybody has played with one of these new GoPro 11s, the minis, I'm not sure I'm liking it. So if you want to know about that, let me know. I'll tell you about it. But yep, you've watched it happen. Exactly. Wilson Ford, let's see. I think you one time saying you have another channel for off-grid cabin content. What are your thoughts on including that content on this channel versus having it on a separate channel? Good question. So I have 3 channels, believe it or not. One of them, I will bet you nobody here has seen it. Well, maybe 1 or 2 of you have, but I'd be really surprised. So if you've seen it, I think I got a couple stickers. Drop a comment down below what that 3rd channel is about. And if you get it right, I'll send you a sticker. And I owe one to Kilted Sawyer still. I finally got his address so I can send it to him. So I got to send one to him. So if you get that 3rd channel right, Skookum, you get you did. Oh, well, that sticker's gone, folks. Yes, it's about making bread, but it's not really an active channel. So I have 3. I have my off off-road channel, the Jeeping channel. And originally, let me back up a little bit. YouTube's a bit of a crazy experience, but originally I did everything on the main channel. I only had the one channel. And then I'm one of those people that studies a lot, reads a lot, tries to learn everything I can about something. And I had learned that with YouTube, it's really not good to have a variety of stuff on your channel because it can confuse people that want to watch. Maybe you just want to watch sawmilling and you could care less about me making bread or running my Jeep. So I split off the Jeep stuff. And then after a while, and I thought, maybe I'll, I did a vacation with some ghost towns and stuff, and I put it on the channel, and I thought maybe I'd split all that stuff off too, and just do sawmilling, and then the bread stuff I actually did for a group on MeWe, which is like Facebook only, better, in my opinion. No advertising, free speech. Nobody's telling you what you can or can't say, that kind of stuff. And there's a group on there, and I'm a bread maker. I love to make bread. And guys, how we paid for the mill in 13 months is a little bit about doing things. And so that channel is about making bread. So first of all, send me an email with your address in it, or message me or something, and I'll get you a sticker. So, and let me know what your name is so I don't have to try to call you Skookum Sawmilling all the time. Paul Green, hey, right on. Let me finish answering this one, and then I will answer yours too. So back to Mike's question, and he's trying to decide whether to make a separate channel or put up. Okay, so here's the thing, Mike. I think the cabin stuff is applicable to the sawmilling stuff because that's why I run a sawmill. And I think that it's a matter of, should you put it up or not? Most of the people on my sawmilling channel aren't interested in the cabin. That's okay. That's all right. It's one of those things where you just have to understand that you're probably not going to have as many people watch it. I think it's fine. I think the Jeep stuff, the reason I peeled it off and I won't be putting it back is I think it's different enough that when I do a Jeep video, there's not everybody who runs sawmills owns a Jeep, but a lot do, by the way. So I think if it's off grid, yes, I think it's fine. Personally, that's my thought. I think it works because it helps explain why you do what you do. Look, if you're watching this because you run a sawmill, you're what I call a doer. You're somebody who does stuff. You're not somebody that talks about it or dreams about it, or maybe you do dream about it and think about it and talk about it, but you also do it. And if you have an off-grid cabin in the woods, you're a doer, because you don't just have an off-grid cabin in the woods and do nothing. It's work all the time. So yes, I think you can combine all of those. I absolutely think it can work fine as long as it fits together. So I would say give it a try. Why not? Worst thing that can happen, you can push it off on a second channel. But I personally think it's easier to run one. That's why you don't see many Jeep videos out. For those that like the Jeep, it's really hard. Just a lot of work to run one channel. Trying to run two or three, I haven't put a bread video out in 6, 7, 8 months or a year. But I do make bread. I make some great sourdough this weekend. So, and if you're on MeWe, you would see that actually. But all right, so I had a question from Paul Green. Let me look at that one. How do you slide a log up or down the mill? You have an LT28. So the first question is the LT28, I think that's an all manual mill, right? So let me know, Paul, is it an all manual mill? If it is, that makes it more difficult, but there are a couple ways. If it's the log itself and you haven't taken any faces off, then the bark is gonna get in the way on the bunks. However, what I have done, because I ran an LT10 that I actually put on a trailer and took out on jobs, I did two things. One, I put a boat winch, which are really cheap, mounted to a like a 2-inch tongue type, trailer hitch type tongue on the back of the mill, so that, and what I would do is I would always try to load my logs forward more, so that if I had to move them, I could use the boat winch, wrap that cable around the end of the log and winch it. So that's what I would do on a manual mill. So if your LT28 is manual, which I believe they are, but honestly, I kind of can't remember. I think the LT35 is the first that had hydraulics other than the 40. So an electric winch in place of the manual winch. Okay, yeah. So that's basically what I did. I had two winches on mine. I had an electric winch to load the logs, and I had a manual winch to pull them down the deck. The other thing I would do, there's two other things I would do. One is and I'm not sponsored by Logrite, so I'm just telling you, they make the best can hooks in my opinion, and they're metal and they're aluminum and they're awesome. They also have a steel one now, and I would jam one of those under the log, and then like a 4-footer, and I would lift the log with that while somebody else winched one direction or the other. And because the winch was mounted to a hitch, like a hitch receiver, and I had one on both sides of the mill, I could pull it either way. That's the only way I can think of doing it on a manual mill. The old Roman method, basically using a cant hook to wedge it up. You could put pipe under it, roll it back and forth. That might be a little too much work, but using a winch to drag it down one end, especially while you're using a big cant hook to lift it a little bit to get that bark up off the bunks, that's about the only way I can think of outside of using a tractor to take it off and put it back on. Manual mills are a challenge that way. So unfortunately, that's what I've done. So let's see. I agree about the cabin being relevant. I have a long running thread on a separate playlist for the restoration of my case tractor. Awesome. Absolutely. But I use it for the sawmill. Yeah, absolutely. I think I've seen that one. Absolutely. So I think when you're with whatever you're doing, when it comes to running a YouTube channel, as long as it's somewhat applicable somehow, if it makes sense, if you're building a cabin and you're making the lumber, quite honestly, in my opinion, that's really relevant, because you're not just making lumber, you're using it, and if you look at my cabin videos, that cabin, the original framing I bought, I bought it. It was the reason I bought my sawmill in the first place, my little LT10 that originally sat on the ground. I milled all the interior for that cabin with that little LT10. Then I milled lumber for the deck, for the stairs going into the loft. I was milling lumber all over the place. And then I put it on a trailer and I dragged it out to other people's places, and I milled lumber for them too. And that's part of what's coming up in a video here, should be early this week, about how I paid for that mill so quickly. And this is part of that equation. So if you're doing YouTube and you mill lumber and then you use that lumber to build with, and you can show people, absolutely applicable. If you run a sawmill, you know you need a tractor. You need heavy equipment. You can run a tractor without, you can run a sawmill without them. I have, but the reality is moving logs is a heck of a lot easier if you've got a machine that can move the logs to the sawmill. So it makes sense. You got to have it. I think all of that's fine. Jeep, not so much. Making bread, maybe not. Using bands from an awesome shop that makes them, absolutely. There you go, Joe. And trust me, guys, I'm not. Joe does not sponsor my channel, so don't get me wrong, folks. But if I tell you about stuff, now I will tell you, Joe did give me some bands. So full disclosure, he did give me some. But the truth is, I don't plug anything or anybody on my channel unless I believe in them. If you've been on Facebook at all and you've seen me on Facebook, I've actually talked about why I don't do product reviews very often. And usually if I do it, it's because I bought it. Well, actually every time I've done it, except for one exception that hasn't come out yet, I bought it myself. The one exception is my laser. That's coming out soon. I blew it up, so I had to get another one, which I did buy myself. But I won't plug something or somebody on my channel unless I believe in it. You will see that I'm one of those people. I believe in being honest. I'll tell you a funny story. This is how dumb this old crazy jarhead is. I ordered a refrigerator for my Jeep. Yeah, a refrigerator for your Jeep, right? No, seriously, they make these cool DC refrigerators now, and I ordered one, a 52-quart one, to fit in the back of my 2-door Jeep when we go camping, because I got tired of having a cooler with ice in it. I wanted to have a fridge. I thought it was a good idea. So I ordered this thing, and the box comes on Friday, and I'm like, wow, cool. That must be the fridge. But it's so big. And it was a 75-liter one. And I thought, I didn't order that. So I tried calling the company about 3 times now to say, hey, guys, you sent me the wrong one, to give them an opportunity to fix something. And a lot of people are telling me, well, that's dumb. Why would you do that? Well, because I just can't not do it. It's the way I am. So enough of that. All right, where are we at here? Electric winch and play. Okay, we got that one. Will the Woodmiser Resharp program accept blades other than theirs, such as Joe Main's? Yes, actually, Joe Main's blades. So, thing about Joe, guys, is Joe sells Woodmiser bands, and the company he works for, ITCS, I believe, also makes their own bands. So he sells both. So it just depends on what you want, which bands. He'll tell you. You talk to Joe. So he does both. And yes, they don't resharp them. Woodmiser will, though. Woodmiser will actually resharp others. As long as they've got the band profile and they can do it, they will. I've talked to their resharp guy a few times, and they've told me that as long as they've got the grinding wheels, the stones, whatever, to do the right gullets and all that kind of stuff, they'll do whatever. They don't care. So it's not really important to them where they come from. Now, obviously, I think if you got those bands from 10,000 miles away, and if they don't work very good, I don't know that I'd send them to them. But I by the way, they've offered to send me some, and I told them no, thank you. I'm not really that interested. But anyway, yeah, the Woodmiser will absolutely do those, so no issue there. And Joe is a Woodmiser band, I guess, rep. Joe, is that what you'd say? So he can tell you too. But the box I got from Joe, it says Woodmiser on it, straight from Indiana, in less than 48 hours. I mean, I was stunned at how fast it was. And that's the one thing I think I said in a previous video. I never thought of getting bands from Joe because he's 3,500 miles from me. And then I find out I could have been getting them from him all along. So now I will. All right, what else you guys got for me? It's this is freewheeling, whatever you want to talk about. I'm here to talk about it. The bourbon of the day, by the way, is Four Roses. That's good stuff. Mm. What else we got? While I'm waiting for a question, I was kind of worried today because, well, first of all, we had that mic problem. That really didn't help. I think I lost about 10 viewers right there. But before, I had my mom moved here a couple years ago, and she lives like 25 miles from me here. I tried to get her to move like a mile or two away, but no, it's 25 miles. And she needed me to go put together this cabinet thing for her, and we were going to have dinner. So I said, yeah, sure, I can do it on Sunday. So I was, I told her, oh, we got to be there a little earlier. So we did. But literally at like 4:45, I'm like, oh my God, I'm 25 miles from home, and I still got to get home and try to get the camera running so I can do my live and not mess up. And then I get here and then the sound didn't work. So, all right, that's, just crazy stuff going on. Hmm. What else have I got for you? I don't know. We've got, I will tell you that I think I'm almost finished day one on the old homestead uh, series, and so day two is going to be fun because on day two, actually day 2 and 3, I split a maple that was 43 inches on the small end and 56 inches on the big end, and that thing was so huge. Speaking of tractors, we could not move it ourselves, and I've got some experience moving logs, and that one, what I wasn't, no, heck no, that wasn't going anywhere. But we got it moved with the tractor. And I was using a 28-inch bar on my Husky 572. And Dean, awesome, buddy, you're just killing me, man. I love you. Ask more questions. But so, and by the way, guys, Dean has been really awesome. I want to just call this out. When we do these YouTube channels, you really don't make a whole lot for them. I mean, a lot of guys think, I got 10,000 subscribers or almost. I'm 270-ish away or something like that. You think he must be making a lot of money. No, unless you have a video go viral. I had a short that did, and it got 6.5 million views. I made a good haul on that one. It's $350 for one video. The rest of the time I make $100 a month on YouTube. So I love doing this. I enjoy it, and I like answering questions and try to help people out with whatever they're doing. So when a guy does like Dean has and does these super stickers, whether it's $5 or 10 or 15, it actually really helps. And so I appreciate it. Just like getting a tip as a bartender. So thank you. Um, okay, so where the heck was I? Oh, day two. So I was running a 28-inch bar on my 572 Husky, and it wasn't deep enough. Now you lose 6 inches with a slabber, so you put your chainsaw slabber on, and then you got a 2x6 also. So you're losing about 8 inches of that 28-inch bar. So you're cutting 20 inches deep into something that's over 50 inches deep, and then you got to take the slabber off and try to cut down even deeper. And then when that doesn't work, you get tank bars in and start trying to break it apart, wedge it apart, and eventually you break it apart. And so we got that log quartered up, and that took some effort, and then started milling it up. And there's some beautiful spalted maple in there, which is something I don't get to mill very often. And the next job that I'm going to go do now that my mill's up and running again is some spalted maple also. So that's going to be fun. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. Basic question here. As a newbie, can you go over the process of centering the pith on a tapered log using the toe boards? Sure, absolutely. Happy to do that. Let me see what Dean, if Dean had one. Nope. Okay. Mm. All right. So first thing is, I'm going to tell you, I've been thinking about doing a video about odds over evens, and so what that means is either make a single cant or triples. Don't make a double cant unless you can make a 6 and a 4 or a 6 and a whatever. Oddball. Don't do 2 6s unless if you can do 2 6s, you can offset the pith in one side of the cant. Now, how to center that? Now, I do this as quickly as I can because I mill for production. So what I do is I get the log rolled up on the deck, and I like to have the small end away from me. Now, a lot of guys want the small end to them. They tend to cut better that way. That is ideal. However, when you're going out in the middle of nowhere and you don't know what kind of logs you're going to get, some logs are going to have big butts on them, some won't. If that big end of the log is down at the far end where a lot of guys think they want it, you may get down there and find out you ain't getting past. And you're going to have to wedge everything up, pull that head back, and break out the chainsaws. That's kind of a pain. So I want the big end on my end of the mill so that I can tell immediately. I don't even get into the cut before I know if I need to push it over the side supports and squeeze it out. And if I need to do some whittling to get my head past it. So that's number one, small end on the far end for me. That also means I immediately know I need to kick that toe board up. It's a small end. It's a tapered log. I'm going to kick the toe board up. Then I go measure, and I always try to show that in my videos 90% of the time. I go check the pith on one side, I check the pith on the other side, and then all I do is I just adjust the toe board so that if the pith on the near side is at 10 inches, the pith on the far side is at 10 inches. Now that means that my log on the near end is 20 inches deep inside the bark, right? Basically, or I guess outside the bark, whatever, doesn't matter. As long as it's 10 inches on this side and 10 inches on that side, and you don't have a wandering pith. If you've got a wandering pith, there ain't nothing you can do about it. If it's at 10 inches on this end and 4 inches on the other end, you're not going to center it because it's going like this. So you have to accept that log's going to have a pith that's going to go different places. But if it's a fairly straight piece of tapered log, you're going to be able to mill a cant out of that and keep that pith centered. Once you get those first faces cut, you should already be looking at that and saying, I'm going to make an 11-inch, 12-inch, 10 and 3/8, 9 and 7/8, whatever size cant you plan on making. You should be thinking that already. And so you get that opening face, you roll at 90, you get your opening face, you roll at 90, and now you're either milling the width or the height of your cant. And that is going to be dependent on if there's a sweep in that log, if there's stress in it. If there isn't any, doesn't matter, pick your poison, go away you go. So typically, you go mill the top, mill the side, drop the toe board. The only time you want to drop your toe board between the rolls is if you're milling really big stuff. You don't want a great big log slamming down on a toe board roller that's still up. If you do, it could blow your hydraulics. So note to self, the method I use, the one caveat is you've got to know that if you're milling a monster, drop the toe boards anytime you're rolling the log. Okay? So toe board up, center the pith, take the slab off, roll at 90, take the slab off, drop the toe board roller, roll at 90. Now what you should have is you should have two 90-degree sides face to face. You've got your round top, and it's going to be higher on one side than the other because you're trying to center the pith. That's okay. That's why if you're not using a laser, you go down to the middle, take the average, come back, drop an inch and a half, and away you go. Thick bark, 2 inches, whatever. And that's going to get your next opening face. But at this point is where you've got to look at it and say odds over evens, right? That means that I don't want to cut an even number of boards out of the cant right now, because if I do, I'm going to split the pith, right? So if the pith is at 5 inches and I start at 10 and I go 9, 8, 7, 6, my next cut is going to be at 5. That's where the pith is. I'm going to split the pith. So I don't want to do that. I'd rather go to 9 and cut down, or 9.5 or something like that, so that when I cut down, instead of, if the pith's at 5 inches, my last cut above the pith is at 5.5 inches. And so my next one's at 4.5. Now the pith is centered in that board. That's called a boxed heart. And now, does that make sense? It's think odds over evens. Same with what I said about making one cant or 3. So you'll see me split cants a lot, because if I'm making 2x6s and I can get away with it, I'll take a 12 1/8 inch, or if it depends on what size 2x6s I'm milling. But for this purposes, let's say I'm milling true dimension, full 2 by full 6. I'll make a 12 1/8 inch cant, and if I can keep the pith to one side or the other of the split, then I'll go down and split it at 6 inches each. So right in the middle. That pith should be off to the side, most of the juvenile wood off to the side in just one of the 2x6s I'm going to make. Then away you go. I don't always get that perfect, guys. And if I don't, you'll see it in my video, because I will tell you in my video, look what I did. Oops. And it was actually Magic Man off Forestry Forum. He and I were talking one day, and he told me, he said, Eric, odds, buddy, odds. Think about it. What are you doing? Yes, you can make 2. 6 and 4 is ideal. 6 and 6 is not. 4, 4, and 4 is better, because if I mill a 4 inch by, say, 12 inch, and a 4 inch by 12 and a 4 inch by 12 out of a 12 by 12 cant, I can make 3 2x4s at once. And when I get down into the middle, the pith's going to be right in the middle of that 2x4 that's in the middle cant. I hope that makes sense to you. So, all right, let's see. I watched the Black Locust video. It was mentioned about milling hardwood without lube, and wintertime pine diesel work better than anything I've tried. Okay. Hey, have a good night, Joe. Thanks for joining us. All right. So the Black Locust, yes. So Jake Dean, who does have a channel on YouTube, I don't think he puts much out on it. It's called Custom Sawyer. He's also on Facebook, Custom Sawyer. Jake Dean is one of those guys. He's got 2 LT70s. One of them's about 70 feet long. It's insane. I know he can mill over 50 feet. I can't remember if it's 58 feet or what. It's really long. It's custom built, 2 beds, LT70 for milling huge stuff. And Jake, the way I remember it, he was milling like 1 million board feet a year, maybe at 1.2 million. Like, this is a guy that has milled more lumber than anybody I've ever known or heard of on a wood miser. Absolutely. He's also got a Lucas mill. He's got all kinds of stuff. He's got a full-blown operation down in Georgia. Dean, if you're watching, thanks. Because Dean is one of those guys that he gives a lot of information out on Facebook as well as on Forestry Forum, where he's probably more active, actually. And it was Dean that said, when you're milling those dry ones, cut the lube off, because the lube is making the fine sawdust. Because on a really dry wood, if you haven't milled any yet, or if you have, you know what I'm talking about, it makes a really fine sawdust. And when the lube gets into that, it gums it up. And when it gums it up, the band can't clean it out of the cut. And so now you got a problem. You're not pushing all the sawdust out. It's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. That heat is backing off your tension on the band. You're going to dull the band faster. You're going to throw the set off. Everything is bad. So he's saying, cut the lube off, let it run dry. You'll mill better. I've heard others say that as well, that are pretty knowledgeable guys, and I just never tried it. So I will be doing that. And then let's see, wintertime pine diesel work. Diesel works better than anything you've tried. It's really funny, and I've seen that countless times. Like, there's a lot of guys that swear by using diesel, and just a drip apparently. I've been using Pine Sol and Dawn for a dozen years, and in the winter, I use Pine Sol and Dawn and windshield washer fluid, and it works. Now, am I opposed to trying diesel? Not really. I've heard it works really good, and if one drop is all that you need, shoot, I don't know, maybe. And I know Davidson's All Natural Jim did a video a year or more ago where he talked about how it was actually cheaper to run diesel than it was to run water. And I was like, what? Apparently, because he used so little of it compared to how much water you could use. Now, I've also heard, though, using the lube miser, getting rid of the bottom jet, only having the top jet, that you could run all day on 5 gallons. And if I could do that, I'd be a happy camper, because I can run 5 gallons in 2 hours. And when you're out in the middle of nowhere and all the water you've got's on your camper, like 50 gallons of it, and you want to have a shower at the end of the day, if you're running 5 gallons every 2 hours, you're running through a lot of water. So, all right. Do I always disengage the blade between cuts? Caper country? No, I do not. And I almost never do. I find sometimes with simple set, I just let her run flat out if I'm sawing several boards between. Hey, buddy. No, I have not. I do not shut that band down. I have kind of two things, and this is what I talk to all my off bearers when I've got off bearers. Hang on, guys. Let me tell mom. I'll call her back. So when I've got off bearers, what I do is I will tell them right away, and I'll say, "Look, here's the deal. If the band shuts down, that's your clue. You can start getting stuff out of my way. If the band doesn't shut down, don't get in my way." I do it politely, but I can cut pretty much 12 inches down before I have to stop. So I like to try and mill down to the deck as much as possible, unless my off bearers are fast enough that they don't get in my way. So if you've seen, there's a video I put out about 6 months ago, uh, absolutely best sawmill ever, or whatever, some video like that. It was about the off bears. Those guys were fast. I didn't have to shut down. But in general, no, I don't shut down. I started doing that on my LT10 because it was such a pain in the butt to move the lever back and forth to engage the clutch. I was like, why am I doing this? Engage the clutch, go down to the other end, lift it up an eighth of an inch, and drag her back, and away you go. Now, with the 40 and simple set, you got to lift it up to get it above whatever your cant height was. So if your cant height's at 10 inches and you run down to the other end at 9, you come up to 10 and a quarter or 10 and a half, back you go, down switch, and away you go again. I don't shut my band down. No, heck no. Let's see. Have you done parallel bark milling like Robert Milton was talking about? So, well, sure, I have, not intentionally. So one of the differences, that's a big difference between the hardwood guys and the softwood guys. The hardwood guys are milling for the absolute best grade. And Robert Milton, Yellowhammer on Forestry Forum, and Hobby Hardwoods Alabama on YouTube, that guy is a wizard when it comes to hardwoods. He knows what he's doing. So I'm telling you, that guy is really knowledgeable. He produces some of the best quality hardwoods there is. And when he does that parallel to the bark milling, it's all about getting high grade wood. And he knows he's going to cut a wedge, but he's going to cut it out of the center. And that's an entirely different style of milling. It's not production milling. It's high grade milling, and that's a little different. He's still producing at a pretty high rate, but he's totally trying to run for the best quality hardwoods he can get. Softwood millers, they're different. It's just a different game. So yeah, I mean, you could mill parallel to the bark in a softwood, absolutely, and take the heart out in the wedge. You could absolutely do that. I don't know of any softwood sawyers that do it, though. I think because most of us are milling for production. So you could produce doing that too if you got good at it. I'm not saying you can't, but most of us, it's get the log on the deck, hooks to the right, take the top off, roll it 90, take the top off, roll it 90, take the top off, and then go bang, bang if you can. or roll at 90, take the top, bang, bang, and then knock her to the deck. And it's the least amount of movement as possible, quickly as you can, get the best lumber you can make in the shortest period of time. Knock it out, get your 2x4s, get your 1x, get it off the deck, get the next log up, because your customer's got 50 logs and you got today and tomorrow to get them done. That's insane sometimes, folks. Oh, what else we got here? Let's see. I'm green as springtime grass. No problem, Paul Green. Do you have a video on explaining how to build a cant? Yes, sir, I do. If you're on my channel, go back about 6 months, but I'll tell you what, make a comment in maybe my latest video or something, and I will reply to you with a link to the how to build a cant video. I do talk about it in others, but I made one video that just talks about making a cant. And I will tell you, honestly, 90% of my videos have something in them about doing what we do. And that's really mostly the focus of my channel, is sharing what I've learned. I don't know it all. I make my mistakes. I'll share them with you when I do. But if I can help you out, I want to do that. And so you'll see that in my videos, and I'll share that with you as soon as I can. All right, Mike, enjoy dinner. Thanks for joining us. Timothy Christian, have an LT40 wide on order and asked Wood-Mizer about using diesel for blade lube. They advised me that it would void the warranty. You know, that's a great point. Is it Tim or Timothy? Wood-Mizer will absolutely tell you water, Dawn, and dish liquid. They also have a mix themselves, and I think they have a winter mix too. And I honestly, it works. It works for me. The only time I ever get pitch buildup on my bands, and I mill a lot of ponderosa pine, which is dripping wet. I like it dripping wet, but that can build up some pitch on the bands. But it's when I'm not pouring enough lube to them. I'm not paying attention. As long as I'm paying attention and I'm pouring the lube to them, they're fine. But you can't run dry. You're not going to run dry and not build up pitch on softwoods. So yeah, diesel could help with that. I know a lot of guys swear by it. I've got a dozen years running my mill. I make a profit when I run my mill. I don't need to run diesel. It's just the way I am. It doesn't mean I won't try it someday, just to tell you what I think. But I think it would smell. So I'm not. And I've also heard it's bad for the B57 belts. So, but I know guys that have done it for years. Let's see. I like to mill down to the deck also with the board still on. Yep. Seems to help keep the boards flat if there's stress. It absolutely can. Hey, Two Brothers Outdoors, we are still live. Yes, sir. Rick, nice to see you, buddy. It's late back there. Holy cow. I prefer that. I mean, if you see any of the videos where I'm milling up at the cabin, I ain't pulling anything off. I'm gonna mill right to the deck. And that is generally what I try to do, unless I've got off bears that are good enough that they can get the wood out of my way. The one thing I don't like, and this is, anybody that's a production sawyer probably gets this. The one thing I don't like is somebody slowing me down. Don't get in my way. Don't slow me down. I got too many logs to mill, too much work to do, too little time to do it in. Don't get in my way. So, and I don't like off bears that just sit around either. That's another one. You know, I explain how it all works. Get that wood out of my way, or don't be in my way. It's either or. But better have a log ready for me, so that when this log's done, you're getting that lumber off the deck, and there's a log already ready for me to lift up and get it on the deck, because I'm not waiting around. You know, time is money. And the owners, I work for people and all over the place, and they understand that, right? They're paying me by the hour. So if I'm sitting there waiting for their guys to roll logs up to me or to off bear, I'm getting paid the same amount of money, right? I don't bill by the board foot. All right. Hey, the Adirondacks. You know, Rick, I always wonder where the heck you guys are. I know where you are, and then I go, where the hell are they? So you're up there. I know where you are. Up in the great Northeast. All right. Diesel destroys polymers. Yeah. Hey, Desert Hobo, nice to see you back, buddy. Yep. He's another nor'easter. Let's see. Also, since you can charge by the hour, I would think the customer wouldn't want to be in the way since it slows you down. Yes, absolutely. Right. I mean, a lot of guys think you have to charge by the board foot, and I argue you do not. Remote sawing, mobile sawing is not like any other type of sawing, in my opinion. If you're a remote portable sawyer, you're like the plumber going to someone's house. You're the electrician they called in to fix some wiring. They have you come out, they're paying you. You're on the clock. And when they understand that you're billing them by the hour, they get it. They know. And if you're working hard, you don't own a sawmill if you don't work hard, right? I mean, I've never known anybody that owned a sawmill that sat around and didn't do anything. You're making sawdust. You're a sawdust eater. You're making sawdust. And do you like to sit around and do nothing? No, heck no. Not unless it's my break time. Otherwise, let's go. Let's get her done. And customers appreciate that. They love that. That's what they want. All right, what else you guys got for me? We're at an hour and 10 minutes, and I'm happy to keep going for a little bit longer since we lost a few in the beginning when my voice, my sound wasn't working. So, by the way, speaking of Two Brothers in Southern Adirondack Outdoors, and since I got 15 of you on right now, guys, guess what's coming up? On the 1st of April, we're going to be doing a live. It's hosted by Two Brothers Outdoors. And Southern Adirondack Outdoors is also going to be on the channel, and I am too, and it will be a Q&A session with the three of us, maybe a fourth if he finds another sawyer of a different kind of mill. And it's any questions you got about running sawmills, it'll be all three of us or maybe more. So look for that. It's been posted on Facebook. I posted it in my community page. Check out Two Brothers Outdoors and Southern Adirondack also, because I think they've got links as well. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to have a bourbon while I'm doing it. So it could be a good time. What other questions we got? What do you want to know? What cameras I use? What software I use? What fuel I use? Do I use ethanol free? Ask away, guys. Any questions you have about remote sawing, sawmilling, cabin building, YouTubing, Jeeping, whatever the heck you want to know, I'm happy to answer it. So this is your chance. One of the things about making videos, it's always kind of tough to think about what you might want to know. And I'll tell you, there's one thing about making videos when you're a sawyer that's different than all other YouTube. If you're a production sawyer, you're a sawyer that you're out there, you're making a product for somebody. You can't say this video is going to be about this, and they all say that you should make your videos. You should come up with your title, your thumbnail, and the whole theme of everything for your video before you go film it. That's not how it works. When I go out to a job site 200 miles north of me in the middle of the woods somewhere, I have no idea what I'm going to run into. I have no idea. I've seen a picture of the logs, a couple pictures of the ground. I've emailed back and forth with the customer. That's about it. I probably talked on the phone, sent in my contract, all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I got no idea what I'm actually going to run into. And 9 times out of 10, I end up seeing something else. Most of the time, I really don't know what I'm going to have till I'm milling it. Excuse me. So what that means is I film what I do. There's no script. There's none. So there's a little bit of a funny thing that happens in my last video. If you watched my last video, I pulled out my magic hook, and the debarker cover for my debarker on my sawmill, right? They give you a nice little cover you can put over it to protect it from the weather. It got caught in my chain and dragged across the yard where I was dragging my chain. And I didn't even know it was there. And the customer actually went and picked it up and put it away for me. And I mentioned it in the video. And that's the kind of stuff you just don't know what's going to happen. All you can do is film it and then try to figure out what am I going to do and make a video afterwards about. And that's why I like to do these lives, because I figured this is an opportunity where you can just ask me whatever you want and I'll answer it. So, all right, let's see. Oh, hang on. Let me go back up. Still accepting only cash for milling. Yes, actually, that funny that you mentioned that. That'll be coming up in a video real soon about paying the mill off. It's cash. Now, checks, I do accept checks from customers I trust. I've thought about doing credit cards. It might be easier, but here's the thing, guys. I mill in remote locations. There's no cell coverage. I don't know how I would do credit. So it's cash. Cash is king. Cash on the barrelhead. That's what I want. That's what I tell my customers. If they ask me if they can write me a check, I will tell you I generally accept checks. I've not had an issue with that at all, but I think it has something to do with clientele too, right? So would I think about Venmo, PayPal? I've thought about it, but no, cash on the barrelhead. Any additional advice on quarter sawing the wood miser way? I've already watched your video. I plan on trying it soon. Yeah. Well, obviously bigger is better, but not too big. So if you saw, there's a video. I did the quarter sawing the wood miser way video. Go back and look for a quarter sawing video. The thumbnail I think says, "Can I quarter saw this?" And it was like a 32 or 34 inch, 20-foot long Doug fir or something like that, or 18, 19 feet long. Absolute monster to try and quarter saw that way. I did it. I got a quarter. I quarter sawed it up. But what I would tell you is try to make sure that you can get at least a good 4 or 6 inch cant out of the top. So, the wood miser way, you take the top off and the bottom off, right? And then kick those off to the side. Then you take the middle and you flip it up and you cut it in half. And then you set it side by side and you mill it down, essentially, right? And obviously the middle that you're going to cut in half and take that pith out of, you want to try to get those big enough. So 6 inches or 4 inches, whatever kind of lumber you're trying to make. But make sure when you do the outside, the caps, that you cut deep enough that you're going to get a decent amount of wood out of them, because you're going to get some good quarter sawn lumber out of there. But you've got to take that face off first. And if you only get like a 4 inch face, then you drop 4 or 6 inches from there, you've got a big wedge out there that's not going to be as good. Now, a lot of guys that quarter saw don't care if there's a wane on one side. They're going to edge it off, but then you might be making 1x2s or 1x3s. So I would just say try to pay attention to how deep you're going to be able to cut that slab cut on the top and the bottom. I would almost take out, if I was going to do 6s and 4s, I'd try to get the 6s out of the top and the bottom and the 4s out of the middle, if that makes sense. Just try to maximize those big cap cuts that you make if you can. That works best. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. I think it's gone really fast for me here. So let me try to catch up, guys. Let's see. Still live? Yes. Still accepting cash. Okay, got that. Quarter sign. Gotcha. All right. Have a good night. Adirondacks. Desert Hobo, it's great to see you're doing well. Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing more adventures. You've got it. Wife's calling. Have a good night. Enjoy the movie. We'll see you later. Do you have to reset your mill each time you move from one site to another? By reset, I'm not sure what you mean by that. When I mill, so these mills are fully portable. So when I get done the job, all I got to do is pack the mill up and haul out. Get to the next site, unpack the mill, and away you go. The simple set, pretty much it's going to have whatever you set on it previously, but the simple set doesn't care. It's only from where the last cut was. So once you engage simple set, is where the last cut is. Doesn't matter what the height is on the deck so much, right? It knows what that height is. Well, no, it doesn't even know what that height is. Come to think of it, it doesn't, because you could try to drive it all the way through the bottom of the deck. Trust me, I figured that out the hard way. But no, there's nothing to reset. It's just tear it down, pack it up, away you go. And then when you get to a new site, set everything back up. But I don't have to do any alignments or anything like that, or change anything on the simple set computer. Nothing. I change it as needed. So charge by the hour. Do you charge for travel and a minimum setup fee? Yes. So I charge $1 a mile both ways, and I charge 1 hour what I call setup and delivery fee, which kind of seems silly because you're charging for delivery and your mileage fee. So I just call it a setup fee. But basically, $1 per mile both ways. So if I'm driving 250 miles, it's $500 mileage for me to do that, and $100 for me to set the mill up. period. And if you want me to move the mill again, it's another $100. Every time you ask me to move the mill, it's $100. If I pull my chainsaw out, it's $100 an hour. Doesn't change. I charge $100 an hour for the mill. If you want me to help you off bear, which I generally don't do because I got a bad back now, but I don't change what I'm charging. So the idea is and my contract states this, you're hiring the sawyer and the sawmill. I'm going to bring my sawmill to your location. You're going to pay for that. I'm going to set it up. You're paying for that because that's my time. And then I'm going to charge you for milling. Now, I charge you by the hour, and I usually start at 8 a.m. milling, that is. And I tell them that. But if I'm sitting around for an hour because you're not ready, I'm billing you for that. Sorry, but I'm going to be there to mill. I'm going to be there at 7 in the morning, setting my mill up, getting everything ready to go, and I'm going to have it fired up and ready to rock and roll at 8. Now, if I do a safety brief at 8 a.m. on the first day, I'm not going to bill you for that. I'll bill you when I go, let's go, roll that log up. Now the billing starts. If I have to change a band, that's part of sawmilling. If I have to add fuel or lube, that's part of sawmilling. If the mill goes down for maintenance, that's on me. I don't bill you for that. If I take a break, I don't bill you for that. But if it's sawmilling related, you're paying for it. And if you want me to buck horns off a log, okay, it's $100 an hour. You could pay this other guy $20 an hour to do it, or you could pay me $100 an hour to do it. Do the math. So generally, I run the sawmill. People generally understand. Sometimes they just need help and they get it. They understand that I'm $100 an hour. So if you want me to buck up a log or something, they get it that they're still paying me the $100 an hour. It's in my rate card. Period. What else do you got, guys? I'll give you one more question. Dean, have you still got a question for me out there? If you've got one, I'll answer that too. And one more from anybody else. And then I better call it a night because it's just about 7. Well, you got 8 more. I'll give you 8 more minutes. How about that? If a mill developed a problem, do you go off the clock to fix it? Yes. Okay, so changing the band, I charge for that. That's part of milling. But if the mill develops a problem on the job, I do not charge for that. So Coeur d'Alene, there were some drone shots. There was a girl in short jean shorts and cowboy boots. That was Teresa. Great gal, hard worker, one of the hardest out there. On that job, I started getting some waves. So the first thing you do if you're getting wavy cuts, change the band out. Number one, boom. Change. I don't care how fresh the band is. You see a wave cut, especially on knots and things in Ponderosa Pine, band comes off the mill, new band goes on, you take another cut, you just do a skim cut to try to take the waves out. If you're still getting waves, pull it back, pull the band off. Generally, I'll pull the band off and just toss it in the pile and pull all the covers off. Tighten up your drive belt. Get that drive belt tension right. Adjust your brake. Put it all back together, and then away you go. As soon as I see I've got those wavy cuts and a band change didn't fix it, I'm off the clock now. Now it's on me to fix it. I'm not charging the customer for that. That's my problem. And so I'm going to get down and dirty. And so in a previous video, I did show a brief minute or two of doing that. I actually lost something and mentioned that I had a screw loose or something like that. Teresa came and helped me find it. And I said I would try to do a drive belt tension video at some point. I haven't done that, so maybe I'll try to do that this spring for you. If you got it, but when you're on a job, you ain't got time to mess around with cameras. Because I'm now off the clock, right? I don't want to be 200 miles from home, off the clock, goofing off. Because if I'm goofing off for an hour, that's $100 I didn't make. And I don't drive 200 miles to run my sawmill for free. I would like to. If my YouTube channel was big enough, I probably would. But right now, no, I can't afford to do that. I $2 a day on YouTube is not going to keep me eating, right? I need beans. So off the clock, that's fix it, get back on the clock. Changing a band, that's part of running the sawmill. It happens every 2 hours. That they pay for. I can't run the mill if I can't change my bands. All right. Let's see. Charging by the hour. Do you charge for travel? And I answered that. Let's see that. I assume you charge for bands. Yes, I charge $40 a band if I hit metal. $40 is about the cost of a new band. If they go up, that price goes up. And I know a lot of guys will say, yeah, but if you hit metal, it might not be bad. I don't know that. I'm not going to know that till I send it off to Wood-Mizer and they say it's bad, you need a new one. So honestly, the way I look at it, it also encourages the customer to make sure that I don't hit rocks, nails, whatever, when milling up their logs. Now, I got to tell you guys something. I got all these rules, all these charges, and everything else. That does not mean that at the end of the day, when I've had 3 bands hit nails and it's been a bit of a rough day, that I don't tell the customer, I'll tell you what, I'll just charge you for one. And here's a bit of a, I don't talk about this too much in my video about paying off the mill, but one of the things you got to remember you're doing as a business is you're building a relationship. Because ideally, you have a customer like I have that you're going to see me mill at again. And you've seen me mill at many, many times if you've watched my channel. But he's gotten a hold of me this spring and asked me how soon I can get back out to his location. It'll be at least a dozen times because I always try to take care of my customers. So yeah, I'm going to tell them I'm charging you mileage, I'm charging you setup, $25 a night per diem for my camper, $100 an hour. If I hit a band, it's $40 an hour. And at the end of the day, maybe I had some wavy cuts and I couldn't get it right. If something was wrong and I couldn't solve it, I'll be like, you know what? I know it's a $1,100 bill. I'll tell you what, make it 9 and we'll be good because I'm not happy with these cuts right here. I've done that. So I think it's important. You have to call all those costs out up front, clearly and concisely, and sign a contract, a written sign on the dotted line contract. But at the end of the day, you're the sawyer. You can decide to say, I should have caught that nail. You know what? I'm not going to ding you for that one. And your customer will love you for that. They will appreciate it. And it gives you the ability to make that kind of choice later on down the road, right? What else you got? We've got 3 minutes. Last question. I didn't see another one from Dean. Dean, if you're still here, thanks again for all those super stickers, buddy. I really do appreciate it. It's awesome. It makes my day. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate that. So last question. Who's got the last one for me? I've already told you what my favorite bourbon is. So what else you got? It's going to be going. And Rick, buddy, you need one of these. Trust me on this. Go out and get yourself a GoPro. A 10 would work with the media mod. You will love me for telling you to do that. I also have a 9. It works pretty good. And I have the 11. Yeah, I don't think I would buy another one of those. Let's see. Do you get much pushback for travel or setup expenses? Nope. Only one time have I had somebody say, is your price negotiable? Maybe twice. One time I said nope, and I didn't mill for him. The other time I said nope, it's non-negotiable. I'm sorry. If you can't afford it, that's fine. I understand. Have a great day. I ended up going back to their location a few times. Guys, look, if you take your car to the dealership, they're going to charge you $160 an hour to fix it. And they ain't negotiating nothing. Period. And you can either choose to take it to them or choose not to. And your sawmill is absolutely the same. You have a major investment in that mill, right? You spent $40,000 or $20,000 or whatever to buy a mill, and you had to buy a truck, and you had to buy tools, and you had to learn how to use it, and you got to maintain it. I just fixed my mill. That cost me what, $600 or something? I don't know, right? That's costs. So when you go out into the woods, you're not some burger flipper at McDonald's asking for $15 an hour. You are a professional sawyer. Hopefully you've milled more than a couple hours. And I'm sure all of you have. But you got 20, 30 hours on your mill. Maybe you got a year or two behind your belt before that on a different mill or whatever. You got some time on that mill. You've used lumber that you made yourself. You're not just selling them that you bring a sawmill. You're selling them that you know how to use it, that you actually know how to turn a log into lumber. That's something a lot of people can't do. And they will understand if you're willing to make it clear, this is what I charge. And that's why I have a rate card. Go to manlyportablemilling.com. You can get my rate card and my contract. You can take it, change the name on it, and use it yourself if you want. I have no problem with that. Because I other guys helped me build them myself. I didn't just come up with those on my own. Somebody else helped me out. So guess what? Go steal them from me. I give you permission. Take them, use them. They're not copyrighted. And it really, really helps. If you lay out your costs ahead of time, clearly, concisely, they understand everything you're going to charge. Shouldn't be an issue. If it is, they're not your customer. That, folks, is coming up in a video really, really soon this week. How I paid off my LT40 hydraulic sawmill in 13 months from the day I picked it up to the day I sent my last payment to Wood-Mizer. 13 months paid in full, period. So I'm going to tell you how I did that. I hope it helps you guys out, and I will do a live next week as well, because it'll be after that video, and we can talk about it, and I can maybe answer some questions on that too. So y'all have a great night. Appreciate it, Danny. Thanks for being here. Skookum, appreciate your being here. Timothy, two brothers, Rick, Paul Green, Dean, thank you. That's Craig's buddy. Desert Hobo, Southern Adirondack Outdoors, LC Cates, holy cow, there was a whole bunch of you. Joe Main, Wilson Forest Lands. Who else did I have here? Ben Bradley, Dusty Ranch, Andy Smith, holy cow, Caper Country. He was here. Awesome. Glad you were here. And again, thank you, Dean, for all the super stickers. They really help the channel out. I really do appreciate it. Y'all have a great night. Take care. The Old Jarhead out.